Good morning. This is the Chapter 11 test review for Go Math 4th grade. Starting off with number 1, an angle represents 1/12 of a circle. Use the numbers to show how to find the measure of angle in degrees. Well, we know if we're dealing with degrees, our denominator has to be 360. And so we need to make an equivalent fraction that shows that 1/12 is equal to somehow or some number of 360ths. So I know I can do 12 times 3 to make 36. So to make 360, it would be times 10. So it would be 12 times 30. And if I do something to the denominator, I have to do the same thing to the numerator. So 1 times 30 is 30. So that means 1/12 is equal to 30 360ths. And once my fraction is in 360ths, my numerator is my degrees. So it'd be 30 degrees. Okay, moving on. Match the measure of each angle C with the measure of angle D that forms a straight angle. So we know a straight angle equals 180 degrees. So I need to figure out which ones of these I can add to here to make 180. You're going to have extra angle D's, but all of the angle C's will match to something. So when we do this, I can do 180 subtract the first angle C, which is 122. And when I do the subtraction, I can do this. So 10 minus 2 is 8, 7 minus 2 is 5, 1 minus 1 is 0. So it's 58. So I can look on my angle D's and I see there's a 58. So I'm going to connect 122 to 58 degrees. And then I'm going to do the same thing with 35 degrees. So I have 180 subtract 35. I'm going to have to regroup. So 10 minus 5 is 5, 7 minus 3 is 4, 1 minus nothing is 1. So I look back at my options and I see I do have a 145. So 35 connects to 145. Again, I'm going to start with 180 because that's a straight angle. And I'm going to subtract 62. Again, I'm going to have to regroup. 10 minus 2 is 8, 7 minus 6 is 1, 1 minus nothing is 1. So 118, looking at my options, I see there is 118. So I can go ahead and match that. And the last one, 180 minus 105. Again, I regroup. 10 minus 5 is 5, 7 minus 0 is 7, 1 minus 1 is 0. So I'm looking for 75 when I look at my options. Oh, there's 75. So like I said, there is some that don't have a match because we're only making angle C and angle D equal 180. All right, next one. Katie drew an obtuse triangle, or an obtuse angle, I'm sorry. Which could be the measure of the angle she drew? Well, we know by definition, an obtuse angle is bigger than 90 degrees. So it is greater than 90 degrees, but it has to be less than 180 degrees because 180 degrees is a straight angle and 90 degrees a right angle. So it's anything in between 90 and 180. 35 is an acute angle, so that would not work. 157 is greater than 90. It is less than 180, so that is an obtuse angle. 180 is a straight angle, so that would not work because it is not obtuse, it is straight. And 92 is more than 90, but it's less than 180, so yes, that would work. All right, the next one, draw an angle that represents a 1/4 turn counterclockwise. Now, counterclockwise, remember, we move the opposite direction of the clock. Counterclockwise moves to the left. And we're going to go 1/4. So first I'm going to find my 1/4. So if I start here, 1/4 of the circle would get me to here. And then I'm going to use the outside. I'm going to draw an arrow that shows I've turned 1/4. I ended up here, and I went counterclockwise. Moving on to number 5. It says Renee drew the figure shown. For 5A through 5C, select yes or no to tell whether the statement is true. The measure of a straight angle is 180 degrees. We know that that is the definition of a straight angle, 180. To find the measure of x, so this angle, Renee she can subtract 75 from 180. Yes, that is true because we can see that both angles together make a straight line or a straight angle. So the whole thing is 180. If I know part of it is 75, then I can subtract it from 180 to get the missing number. And then I've got to do some math. So I'm going to do 180, subtract 75, and when I regroup, 7 minus 7 is 0, 1 minus nothing is 1. My answer is 105. This one is 115, so no, that would not work. All right, number 6. Trey drew this figure with a protractor. We have 3 angles. We can see that these angles are making a straight line or a straight angle. So that means that we know the whole thing is 180. We're going to write an equation that can be used to find the angle KFG. So this one here. So we're really trying to solve for this little piece right here. So we are going to write an equation. We know that the total is 180, and that is made up of 55 degrees plus 80 degrees plus a mystery number. You could also write it as 180, subtract 55, subtract 80, and that would equal our missing number. Either one works. This one we know we're still going to have to subtract anyway, and this one just writes it as a subtraction equation. Now we have to find the real measure. So I'm going to do this a couple of different ways. So the first way, I could do the subtraction one at a time. So I could do 180 minus, I'm actually going to do 80 first. Minus 80 gives me 100. And then I can subtract 55. And I've got to do some regrouping. And I get 45. Okay, that's one way that I could solve it. Another way I could solve it is I could add up the ones I know. So 80 plus 55, that is 135. And I could take this 135 and subtract it from 180. And I still get 45. So either way works. They both get you to the same answer. So the degrees are 45 degrees. Make sure you have your label. It says describe how you solve the equation and how you can check your answer. So we can show our work to describe how we solve the equation, and how we can check our answer is we can add up 45 degrees plus the 55 degrees from the drawing plus the 80 degrees from the drawing, and that would equal 180. And that's how we can check to make sure we've got the right answer. Okay, the next one, use a protractor to find the measure of the angle. So this angle measures. That's what we're trying to figure out. Let me just grab my protractor. So when you're using a protractor, make sure first of all that the protractor is not upside down. If it's upside down, we're going to get the wrong order of numbers. Okay, so when I'm using my protractor, I want to make sure that my vertex is in that little clear point. And I want to make sure that one of my rays is on the line that's on the protractor. Now once I have that, I can take another, like a straight ruler or another straight edge, and I can follow this along to see where it ends up. So now I have the choice, is it 40 or 140? So I need to think about this angle. We know it's either 40 or 140 because that's where it goes. So when I look at this angle, I can see that it's less than that perfect corner, so it's less than 90. So it's an acute angle. So out of 40 or 140, I know that it must be 40 degrees because this is an acute angle and 40 would be an acute angle measurement. Moving on, question number 8. Alex drew this angle on the circle, which describes the angle. Mark all that applies. So when you see that, always check all the options. So these two are deciding, is it a 1/4 turn or a 1/2 turn? Well, going from here to here, I can see that's half the circle, so I know it's a 1/2 turn. And then I have to decide which direction the turn is going. Is it following the way a clock moves, or is it going the opposite direction of a clock? And I can see it's going the same direction that a clock hand moves. So it is clockwise. All right, number 9. Miles has a piece of paper that is 1/4 of a large circle. He cuts the paper into 3 equal parts from the center point of the circle. What is the angle measure of each part? Now I'll tell you, this part can get a little confusing, this little drawing, so I'm going to show you 2 ways to solve this problem. The first way, we have 1/4, and then it says he cuts it into 3 equal parts, so each one of these. So that means I'm going to multiply this by 3. I'm cutting it into 3 equal parts, so that gives me 3/12. Okay, so I can see that. And then it says, what is the angle measure of each part? Well, once I know that it's in 12ths, I can make an equivalent fraction, make it 360ths. 12 times 3 is 36, so 12 times 30 is 360. Do the same thing to the numerator. 3 times 3 is 9. Add my 0 back in, so it's 90 for all 3. Now, making sure I've gone back to the question, it says, what is the angle of each part? So really, I only need to know what 1/12 is. So 1/12, if I know I'm multiplying by 30, is only 30 degrees. So I know the angle measure is 30 degrees. Now, the second way you could do this is to draw the picture. So I have a circle, I cut it into 4ths. That's what I started with. Then it says he cuts the paper into 3 equal parts from the center. So we're going to cut it into 3 equal parts. Let's see, I got that a little off. So then I've got 12 equal parts. Make sure 3, 6, 9, 12. This one's kind of got a little messed up, but yeah. We have 12 equal parts. And then I can do the same thing, 1/12 into 360ths, and that will help me figure out that each one is 30 degrees. So you can either just do the fractions, make them equivalent, or you can draw the picture and then make the equivalent fraction. All right, so next one, use a protractor to find the measure of each angle. So once again, when you're measuring the angles, make sure that your center, your vertex is on the center hole, and one of your lines is on the line on your protractor. And make sure that the curve of your protractor is facing the same way as the curve of your angle. Because if we were to measure, like say I'm measuring angle A, it wouldn't work to have my protractor this way because the angle is over here. So always make sure when you're doing the angles that the curve of your protractor is the same side as the curve of your angle, the arc of your angle. So I'm measuring angle B right now, and I can see angle B comes out to be either 80 or 100. So now let's look at this angle. Is it more or less than a corner? Well, I can see that it is more than a corner, so angle B is 100 degrees. So then I'm going to measure angle C in it, and it might help to turn your paper a little bit. So I've got my vertex lined up, I've got my first line, then I can take my straight edge to just follow that along, and I can see it's either 60 or 120. Well, this angle C is an obtuse angle, so I know it's 120 degrees. And then we have angle A. So I'm going to just turn my paper around so that I have everything lined up. My vertex is lined up, my line, my ray is lined up, and if I carry it around, it's either 140 or it is 40. This is definitely an obtuse angle, so that makes it 140 degrees. And then it says write each angle and its measure in the box ordered by the measure of angles from least to greatest. So I did it from least to greatest. When I did this, I looked at, this is the smallest angle, so I'm going to do that one first. This is the next smallest, this is the biggest angle. I know it's very tempting to just do A, B, C, but always make sure we're going from least to greatest. All right, next one, number 11. Use the numbers and symbols to write an equation that can be used to find the measure of the unknown angle. So once again, we have to use a little bit of what we know. All three angles together make this straight line, and we know a straight line is called a straight angle, which is 180 degrees. So we know that 180 degrees is the total, and that is made up of 90 plus 33 plus x. We don't know what x is yet, but we know that if we add up all these angles, it's going to get us to 180. And now we have to figure out what that unknown angle is. So I'm going to actually add these together first. So I have 90 plus 33. 9 plus 3 is 12, so I have 123. And I'm going to take 180, subtract 123, and that will help me see what the missing angle is. So I know my missing angle is 57 degrees. All right, keep moving. So number 12. Choose the word in the angle measure to complete a true statement about angle JKL. Well, first of all, it's asking, is it an acute, obtuse, or right? Looking at this, it's definitely more or bigger than a corner piece, so that means it's an obtuse angle. And knowing that it's an obtuse angle, I can automatically get rid of this one because that's an acute angle. So I know it couldn't be the answer. So now I'm going to use my protractor. I'm going to line it up. And when I line this up, I can see that it is 120 degrees. Okay, Vince began practicing piano at 5:15 p.m. He stopped at 5:35 p.m. How many degrees did the minute hand turn during Vince's practice time? Explain how you found your answer. So really, we're trying to figure out from the angle from here to here. That's what we're really trying to figure out, because if we put the stop time and the start time on the same one, then we can make the angle. Now there's a couple ways we can do this. We know that each of these numbers is 1/12 of the circle. So each of these sections. Okay. So I can say 1/12 is how many degrees. I can figure that out. 12 times 3 is 360, so 12 times 30. And in fact, I was going to do 1/12, but I'm actually going to see how many 12ths I have here. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 12ths. So that clock went through 4 12ths of this circle, that time that has passed. So it went through 4 12ths. So I'm going to multiply the numerator and denominator by 30. 4 times 3 is 12. Add my 0, so 120. So that means that it is 120 degrees. Okay. I could also take my protractor and measure that. So if I measured that angle, I'm going to line it up with the vertex, make sure my line is on the line, and we can see that the angle is 120. So you could measure it, or you could do the math. An angle measures 125 degrees. Through what fraction of a circle does the angle turn? Well, I know that every circle has 360 degrees. So I know my denominator is 360. If we already know the degrees, then we just put that over 360. Because the whole circle is 360, and this is 125 degrees of that whole circle. Write the letter for each angle measure in the correct box. So an acute angle, we know that means it is less than 90 degrees. I know an obtuse angle is more than 90 degrees. So it is greater than 90 degrees, but I also know it's less than 180 degrees. A right angle we know equals 90 degrees, and we know a straight angle is exactly 180 degrees. So using that, then we can easily figure out where these go. So 125 is not a straight, it's not a right, It's not less than 90, so it means it is an obtuse angle. Okay, 90 degrees, exactly 90 degrees makes it a right angle. Exactly 180 degrees makes C a straight angle. 30 degrees is less than 90, so that makes it an acute angle. 45 degrees is also less than 90, so it makes it an acute angle. And 95 is more than 90, but less than 180, so that is an obtuse angle. All right. For numbers 16a through 16b, select the fraction that makes a statement true about the figure. So the angle in figure 1 represents a how big of a turn. So we're looking at figure 1. Is it 1/4 of a turn? No. And if you need some help, you can also extend these lines out so you can see how many fourths we have. So it's not 1/4. We can see that it's more than 1/2. So we can also, once we can narrow those down, we can see that it's going through 3/4 of the turn, of the circle. Now, angle in figure 2 represents how much of a circle. Well, again, if you need to show your fourths, you can cut it into fourths. So it's more than 1/4. We can see that it's not quite past a half, so it's not 3/4. And we can see that it's going from 1/2 of the circle to the other half. So it is half a turn. Number 17, Melanie cuts a rectangle out of a piece of scrap paper as shown. She wants to calculate the angle measure of the piece that is left over. So whenever you see this arc symbol like this going through two angles and then a measurement on the outside, that's saying that the big angle, this whole thing, is 126 degrees. That's the hole. So as I'm drawing my bar model, I can already draw my hole. I know that's 126 degrees. And I also know that there are two angles that make that up. So I'm going to go ahead and draw my second, and I'm just going to cut it into two pieces. I know that one of those angles is X. Now, it doesn't tell me the measurement of the other angle, but I can see it says that she cut out a rectangle. And we know that a rectangle has 4 right angles. So even though the little box is not drawn, because we know the definition of a rectangle, we know that this is a right angle. So that means that one of my angles is 90 degrees and the other is X. So there's our bar model. And now we're going to write an equation, and it says we need to solve it. So we're going to do 126 subtract 90, and that's going to give us our X, or our mystery number. And so I'm going to go ahead and do the work over here on the side. 6 minus 0 is 6. Regroup. 12 minus 9 is 3. So that means that our angle measures 36 degrees. All right, question 18. Two angles, angle A and angle B, form a right angle. So I'm going to go ahead off to the side. I'm going to draw myself a right angle. And it says that we have two angles that it's made up of. Now, I'm not going to measure this perfectly, but I'm going to say this angle right here is 32 degrees. And now I'm going to draw my little symbol to show that this whole thing is a right angle. It says for 18A through 18C, select true or false for this statement. Angle B is an acute angle. Well, I know that if the whole thing is a right angle, then it has to be made up of two smaller angles, or two acute angles. So yes, that is true. The equation 180 minus 32 equals X can be used to find the measure of angle B. That is not true because this is not a straight line. The equation would actually be a right angle, so 90 degrees minus 32 degrees would give us our X. Now the measure of angle B is 58 degrees. So there's two ways we could do this. We could take the angle we know, 32, and add it to 58 and see what we get. 2 plus 8 is 10, 3 plus 5 is 1, or 8 plus 1 is 9, so it does equal 90. I could also do 90 subtract 32 and still get the same amount. So yes, that is true, and we've solved it in a couple of different ways. A circle is divided into parts. Which sum could represent the angle measures that make up a circle? mark all that apply. The biggest thing here is if it makes up a circle, it has to add up to 360 degrees. So a circle is 360 degrees. We know this. So we're going to have to do some math. So on this one, I see that I have 4 groups of 120. So instead of adding those together, I'm going to multiply it by 4 because repeated addition is the same thing as multiplication. So 4 times 0 is 0, 2 times 4 is 8, 4 times 1 is 4, so that one will not work. Okay, so now the rest of them I'm going to have to do some adding. So I can add this in little pieces. So I've got 65 right here. And if I add these ones together, I get 215. So now I have 3 numbers. So I'm going to do 65 plus 80 plus 215. 5 plus 0 plus 5 is 10. 6 plus 1 is 7. Plus 8 is 15. Plus 1 is 16. 2 plus 1 is 3. So yes, this one does equal 360. Okay, I could do the same thing on this. I could narrow it down a little bit by adding the easy things. So I could add this and get 161 degrees. I could add this one and get 115 degrees. So now I can add 115 degrees plus 161 degrees plus 84 degrees. 5 plus 1 is 6 plus 4 is 10. 1 plus 1 is 2 plus 6 is 8 plus 8 is 16. 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 3. So yes, this one also works. And the last one, I'm going to show you the longer way to do it just in case some of you are a little confused on how I did the other ones. So I'm going to take and I'm going to add all these numbers together. 0 plus 3 is 3, plus 2 is 5, plus 1 is 6, plus 0 is 6, plus 4 is 10. So, carry that up. 1 plus 4 is 5, plus 5 is 10, plus 7 is 17, plus 8 is 25, plus 9 is 34, plus 3 is 37. So that would not work. All right, use a protractor to find the measures of the unknown angles. So once again, I've got my protractor handy. Now remember, if I put it like this, I'm not going to be able to get the angle of measurement of angle Y. So I can either turn my paper over or I can turn my protractor facing the opposite direction. And when I measure that, I can see that my angle is 110 or 70. So looking at this angle, I can see it's more than 90 degrees, so I'm going to go with the 110 degrees. Now looking at angle X, we can tell that that is an acute angle. So when I measure this, let me use this one, this is kind of faded. So I put my vertex on the center point, I line up that one line, measure my angle, and I can see it's either 110 or 70. Since this is an acute angle, it is 70 degrees. Now it says, what do you notice about the measures of the unknown angles? So what you notice, if I put the angles together, what does it make? Well, it makes a straight angle. So I can say the two angles together make a straight angle. And I can see that right from the illustration. But then I can also check it. 110 plus 70 equals 180 degrees. Great. Good luck on your test, guys. Make sure you show your work, use a protractor carefully, and good luck. Have a great day.